Paasch with Network Kansas, and when people ask what we do, they're like, what do you do? I even have my friends that still do that, right? Or people ask you when you're going to other places, what do you do? I feel like Chandler on Friends, right? Nobody knows
his job.
Exactly. What does Chandler do? You know, so I'm like, we make dreams come true, right? And it is, I mean, it truly is. So back in my past, actually I was a Main Street director in Coffeyville, and we had applied to become an e-community back in 2009, I believe, and then we were awarded partnership. So of course there were a lot less. So I kind of handed out for you guys to share some maps if you wanted to look at to see. We have 64 communities, e-communities, which stands for Entrepreneur Community, across the state. And as you see, Bourbon County is right there. So very exciting. Like Bill was saying, that we had closed it off for 1 year because we did some strategizing and reorganizing within our organization to see how we can make this look. So yeah, we shut off applications 1 year, and then the next year we had, I think, between 12 and 15 that were interested and applied. I think we had about 12 that applied. And that is a great amount, and which also makes it tough for 4 coaches across the state to figure out who we're gonna select. You know, and it's a whole huge process. You have to apply, it's a competitive process. You know, it wasn't that there are others in this area, in, you know, in Southeast Kansas over here. You're against all the other 12 because we're not bringing on 12. Because if we do that, we're gonna run out of money, and we really can't do that, right? So you guys had such a strong application. We were so happy to see how many you had involved. It was kind of funny because in this region, we also had welcomed on Miami County, and you both had 18 on your leadership team. And I was like, oh, good God, that seems like an awful large amount, but then knowing how much activity has been going on here in Bourbon County, it's amazing. You know, Lindsay and I have talked about, like, you have 14 people that are gonna, you know, up for nominations or elections for your commission. That's crazy. You know, usually you've got, you know, 3 that are available, and you have like 1 that's gonna show up to do this. So yeah, exactly. So it's pretty cool to see how much activity you guys have had. So what we do, I actually keep some notes so I don't start digressing because I get really excited about this. So if you want to know what an e-community is, it ends up being, bottom line is, it's a locally controlled revolving loan fund, right? So if you guys have something in your community that you have a loan, we actually say that you can loan out a max of $45,000 to 1 business. We give you money. We're like, hey, thanks for being a part of us. We're gonna give you money to be able to loan out to businesses. Right now, we're doing a whole brand new thing this year. We're kind of pooling the funds for some of our areas, but if we see that you're meeting and you're progressing and you're doing the things, we're not asking for a great amount of things. You're already doing the things that we already want you to do. You're engaging, you're having these activities, you're being entrepreneurial minded, things like that. So it's simple things that you're already doing. So if we see you're doing that and you're like, hey, I think we're gonna there's another loan coming in, we're in this process, then you talk to me, and then I sit there and go, oh, okay. So I'll make sure that you get some more money to fund that next loan. That's not for all of them, but the first brand new communities that come on, that's how we're actually working them. Because we've actually said we'll give you $50,000. You can do several small loans, however you do. The main thing is that when you have an applicant, when the e-community team has somebody that's interested, what this is true gap financing, right? They've gone to the bank, or they've gone to a revolving loan fund from the city or the county, but they've done some sort of a public portion of it, right? So you've stepped into a bank, and the bank's like, this sounds great, this is wonderful. You know, I have a $50,000 project that I want to open up my salon, but the bank's like, I don't know. You're a little shady, you're a little risky. I don't know if we can fund it all. If you can, though, you know, if Lindsay walks in and you guys are like, well, she's great, we're gonna actually fund it all. You completely should, absolutely. But if you're like, I don't know, I need a little bit more to offset that risk, then you turn around and say, okay, we'll loan you a portion of it. And you can, you know, if you happen to be in a bank, and we all know this is not the front of mind, right? You're running cities, you're running hotels, you've got your own businesses, you're doing real estate, you're doing things, so this is not forefront of mind. So at some point though, if you go, oh, I just need somebody else to offset that risk, that's where this comes into play. You can say, you know what, you should talk to Lindsay and Bill over with this e-community. They're at the chamber, they can help you with this and figure out how much funding you can get.
Where we feel like this can really be an asset is downtown buildings, where you're not going to be able to get an appraised value that's going to meet any kind of standard of loan to value. And so if there's that gap there where an injection of $45,000 will get the codes issues or whatever taken care of, then the business itself makes sense, but it's the building infrastructure that's causing things to be way out of whack. This can really, we feel like, can come in and fill the gap and help with those. And it can be used for inventory, expansion, land acquisition, building acquisition.
Blue sky, merchandising, yeah, whatever you want, so long as it's a for-profit business. And our state statutes, this is the reason when it was created, our state statute said it has to be a 40-60 match. 40% being a bank, 60%, that's the gap financing. That's when you can go, you know, that's when the bank says, I need somebody to offset. So if I'm walking in with a $50,000 loan that I'm looking to, you know, complete my project, then if the bank says, I'll give you 20, that's 40%, then I could come over to this group and go, okay, I have this, everything's in place, how do I actually put this all together? Can I apply for $30,000? And there's another application process. They make full decision, which is really nice. There's two teams from this being awarded partnership of e-community. So you have a leadership team. The leadership team is basically your chamber board. You know, they're the ones that are gonna promote it. They're the ones that are, you know, host lenders lunches and round tables just so people can talk and learn about it more. And they just promote it. The financial review board are the ones that will get the loans. They'll look at them and they'll, you know, there might be some bankers on the financial review board. You might have other entrepreneurs that are on there, but it's somebody that can actually talk to them about it, and it's a true risk, and that's what it's for. The loans can be unsecured, they can be uncollateralized.
And a question we asked this morning, I guess kind of related to downtown, because I think we have this common in our downtown where one person buys the building and the business goes in there. She was actually saying that we could get 2 loans for that. The person buying the building could apply for an e-community loan towards the purchase of the building, and the business going in could also apply for an e-community loan for their business part. So, because I think we have a lot of that in our downtown.
So it's up to $45,000.
Is a max loan.
A minimum interest rate of 5% is on that, and it's amortized on 10 years.
10-year max. You can do a 90-day deferment. That's always helpful. You know, everybody kind of does it a little different, but it's kind of helpful for, you know, you don't want to be giving them their, and however you guys do it, you might do it if you're allowing, if you've awarded somebody a $45,000 loan. I don't know how you guys, if you would do a receipt basis, or if you're just like, here's 45, and then there's a whole amortization schedule that comes out, and they start paying when they start paying.
With the deferment, will the interest start at the close and just go to the back of the loan, or will it just not start?
However you want to do it.
Okay.
And that's where it comes down to, you know, we have a few programs through Network Kansas that we make the decisions on.
Okay.
So there are others, but you guys make the decisions, and that's where we kind of looked at it. You know, your communities, that's why we put everything into you guys. And then we have right now, for lack of a better, we do levels 1, 2, and 3, which literally means nothing right now, because I'm like, that's awesome. But it's honestly, it's the engagement of the community. You know, if they want, so if we have a level 1 community, which Atchison happens to be, they can set their own terms, the length of note, interest rate, and they set that. Typically, we don't have any that do past a 10-year loan. We did have somebody do that one time, and it was really bad, because it was just silly. They were paying more in interest than they were in their payments, so it kind of stunk on that side. But we're like, don't do that.
So we start as a level 3 with some of these requirements about the interest rate and term loan, but the more points we score and more activity that we do as a community will move us up like to a level 2 or level 1, where we have better interest rate we can offer, and more money available to our community, and things like that.
But even now, right now, so I've been given $1.29 million in the Eastern region. So if you look at your
map.
Yeah, if you look at your map, and there's about 16 communities right there. So like over here. So the Eastern region has been given $1.29 million. The Central region has been given the same amount. Western Kansas has been given $1 million. Our job is to get it all spent. So we keep pushing it out. But what we did for the first time this year is that if we run out of money, so you could be a level 3 that we've given you $50,000, you could potentially use up to $200,000. I'm not gonna let anybody in my region go over $200,000 because I have several that would. We had a community that loaned almost $1 million in 1 year. I know. I was like, oh crap. But honestly, to be frank with you, this is the reason why a lot of our changes started happening, because we're like, if we were gonna keep giving money away, and that's what we were doing, we were taking it from our other side of the house, that we call it, but we were taking it from our account and we were giving it to communities. So we had 14 communities in 1 year come back for more money, and we had one of them come back like 3 times. And you can get up to, now I gotta remember because we haven't talked about it for a while, I think it was up to $100,000. So they had gone through so much money, which was great. I mean, they were getting money it was loaned to the businesses. They were doing incredible. We're not being very good stewards of the money, so we need to be better at this. We need to be able to sustain our organization so we can bring on new communities, right? And that's what we weren't doing. So we said, okay. So now in my mind, and I think I've convinced the other coaches across the state and said, I'm not gonna let anybody go over $200,000, because honestly, Atchison would probably do that as well. I mean, they're really, really good. So we just make sure that we can give you money. If we get to the point where, say you guys have done $200,000 in loans, and I'm at May and June, if I'm at June 1, we work on a fiscal year. Don't ask me why. It's dumb. It's just one of those things. It's really tough to remember. So we've got others that are working on the calendar year. So on the fiscal year, say June 1st, if I still have money sitting in my account, I'm gonna start calling all of my communities, and letting them know that I've got some money. That would be the only time that I would allow anybody to go over $200,000. But if we've depleted it all and I'm kind of stuck and I'm looking at the West going, you've got a lot of money sitting there, or whatever, if they haven't been loaning, or if Central hasn't been loaning, they're able to say, okay, I can give you some money. So, but we're just hoping to, get it out, and then we give it to you guys, and then, the leadership team and the financial review board, they loan it out to your businesses.
So the gap financing that we've been talking mostly about is the biggest piece of this this e-community program, but there's also other support that the program provides, and it's really the program as a whole. They want us to be that they want to energize the community. They want to create an entrepreneurial system and culture in the community where, you know, really is encouraging and we may have access to money so that more people will start small businesses and become entrepreneurs. There's also several other programs that they will support with financially support. There is a youth entrepreneurship challenge that's a statewide thing that a lot of the e-communities participate in, so it gets entrepreneurism into the schools. I know there is a class, an entrepreneurship class at the high school, so there's a statewide support system for the youth entrepreneurship challenge. There is a book called about the Ice House. Who
owns the Ice House? Who owns
the Ice House? And there is a training program that goes along with that they'll pay for. They'll fund some attendance at for the Kansas Ice House program. There's a Makerspace boot camp. There's a growing rural business educational series. It's an 8-week certificate program. There's a thing called the Destination Boot Camp, which is a John Schallert program, economic gardening, and then other programs. In addition to that, there's $1,000 that we can qualify for to promote ourselves as an e-community. Maybe fund this luncheon, do some marketing so that the general public in Fort Scott learns more about the e-community program. So there's lots of other resources that are available through the program other than the primary, the big deal, which is the gap finding. You want to talk about some of those other support things?
So the board certified programs, what Bill was talking about, we call them, we have a suite of 6 board certified programs, right? So we give, it's basically our stamp of approval that we've actually gone through these, we're invested in them, we're committed to them, and we said, you know what, we're gonna use a separate fund to give our communities money if they want to participate in any of these. So they, you know, if it's something, and you guys are early on, this is, you know, your first lender's lunch, it's kind of cool to let people know what's going on. Their leadership team will kind of decide what's gonna work best here in Fort Scott, in Bourbon County. You know, can we get people to attend an entrepreneurial mindset who owns the Ice House class? You know, that's an 8-week course, a couple hours, one night a week. It's just changing the mindset and changing the attitudes of people in your community and getting them to understand that there's not just one way to answer the question, and there's thinking outside of the box and just various different things. So, you know, there might be a group there saying, I think we should do this here. We should, you know, and it can look however. Some people have done it as a book club. Some people have done it differently. So we say, hey, we'll give you some money to do that in your community to start just moving you forward. And again, for lack of a better, we've done levels A, B, and C. We're super creative, but we've asked many people and nobody's given us any better ideas, so we'll take the brunt of it. But it's really awesome that, you know, we're just like, we get our money from the state. There's it's called the Entrepreneurship Tax Credit is how we get our money. We get $2 million in tax credits. This year, it's brand new. Is it Alex Coral, who's the lobbyist for the banks? He's a new lobbyist, but he's actually he came to us last year when we were having difficulties with this whole tax deal. And now we have banks that can participate in the selling of tax credits where they can purchase them. Prior, it was no banks. So we sell them. It's basically an investment in your community that the money comes to you guys, where we turn around, you know, the $2 million. So we get that. We typically give $1 million to what we always call the other side of the house. That's for other programs that we have. Startup Kansas, Kansas Multiplier, Women in Business. And the other $1 million goes to the community side for a revolving loan fund. That's the money that we give to our communities. So that's how that works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what questions do you guys have so far?
It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot.
I have a couple of questions associated or regarding the gap financing community loan. If they are the buyer is purchasing real estate and they've already obtained a loan from another lender, but they're needing a difference, they're needing some help. Do you go on as the second?
Yep.
And it's through title?
We can
and
go
all
on,
that?
we can
Okay.
go on as the third.
Or as the, okay.
Yeah, it
all
doesn't,
right.
I mean,
And what are the other costs associated, as far as closing costs associated with getting this loan that a buyer might need to know?
they're so early in what they're doing, the first person is going to be the guinea pig,
Okay.
period.
We,
But-
a lot of the applications are similar, but it is up to the community on the fees, and so we took, Cherokee's and Atchison's and looked at those two and kinda meshed some things, and so we actually have a draft application out there on our website. I think it's under the chamber tab, or there's a tab that says economic development. So we need to just finalize the fees, but do you, as far as a draft, cause Atchison and Cherokee charged different fees as well.
It's not cost prohibitive. It's $115,000, $115,000.
Damn.
You can't afford that, really?
Exactly.
You can't afford that.
You're only getting a $45,000
Yeah.
loan.
$115 application fee, and then there's a $300 a fee to Landmark Bank to administer the loan over the life of the loan.
Okay.
There are.
But actually, I think that draft was off of Cherokee's, and ours, I think what we decided was lower than that.
So it's not
Okay.
crazy.
But
Okay.
that fee, yeah,
Some communities do an origination fee,
That's- okay.
some of them charge nothing.
It sounds like we're going more the route of an application fee and then an upfront fee associated with maintaining and handling the
Yes,
loan. Okay.
yes.
And then, Bill, you.
cause I
you
don't
went through
think the
several-
closing fee actually went to the bank, like it comes, or I think our closing fee was less, and it actually, I think, most of it comes back to the chamber, like for administering, like the paperwork and things like that.
So the draft
I think
is
so.
on the chamber website
Okay,
right now. There'll be something called final before too long.
Yeah.
You also mentioned, Bill, a few of the things that the gap financing could cover. Did you mention renovations in that? So if a buyer has already purchased real estate and now they're needing to make some renovations to a downtown building, is this an option
Yep.
for them to utilize? Okay.
Yes. It can't be used to pay off debt, for
Refi.
refinancing,
Okay.
for owner
Owner
draws,
salary,
that type of thing.
nonprofit.
Okay.
You can't do a nonprofit. So the two rules, one of the rules came from our board that said it has to be a for-profit business, and the other rule came from the state, and that was that 60-40 match.
So does our chamber set together the financial review board? Is that what, okay. so it's all-
Typically,
Yeah, how we
Okay.
just, formed it for our application is that the chamber board, since, the chamber board already meets monthly, and that was kind of a requirement of the program, we just set it up, that the chamber board is the leadership team, and then the chamber executive committee, which is the chairman of each division, and the president and president-elect. And then we also, added Rachel Pruitt, as the economic development to the leadership team. And then Jody's actually on the chamber board, but the county economic development would be on the leadership team as well.
And this seems to be one piece, the e-community program is one piece of a program where there's lots of other complementary programs. So there's, some other startup Kansas programs that, we just need to talk to anybody who's got an issue, needs some additional financing, who needs some help. Because Shelley's got a bunch of resources, even as we were talking about, a fitness center needed some funding. Now we're getting into a kind of a different area of community development and healthcare a little bit, that there's some other programs out there. So, as you run into either borrowers or buyers that have a need to that gap or that shortfall in funding availability, they just need to come and talk to us, and we're going to get the expert on the phone, and I think
I
this
can be
opens
my
up-
S-way my third.
That's right.
So this sheet that I handed out to you guys, these are for the people that love the stats, and sorry that it's so tiny, but that's where it's at. So on that, if you actually see the column that says e-community, So that says that we've made 592 loans to 564 businesses. Make sure I get these right. And if you come down a little bit, that equals that $18.9 million, right? And if you see the 17% just to the right of that, see where it says 17%? That's only 17% is e-community money that's gone into that $18.93 million. It's pretty impressive. That's really low. And believe me, when we had some communities that were doing close to $1 million in loans, we're like, I think you're, because some of them we would see, I'm like, you have a $2 million bank loan. I'm fairly certain they don't need this e-community loan, right? I mean, it was pretty, but we still stayed at that, and so did the community. So we were certainly proven wrong on that, and we were happy to be proven wrong. So it was pretty cool to see that. So if you come down about, I don't know, another 10 lines maybe where it says 88.14 million, that's the other money that's been leveraged into the deal. That's your banks. That is mainly banks. But then there are foundations and maybe Main Street funding, city or county revolving loan fund, owner down payment, things like that. So that's a huge amount. We do have a 13% business failure rate. That's pretty stinking low. And that has nothing to say about our loan. It has to say about the communities that are making the decisions. And that's what's great, is that we want to make sure that since you guys know your community, you know your people, you know your businesses, we want to make sure that you guys are making those decisions. So to have a 13% business failure rate, we have 74 of the 564 businesses that are still paying their loans that have closed. And then we have 29 of the 74 that have paid off. They've closed their doors, but they feel like that, oh, I don't want to tick off this, this board. They've done great. You've put your risk in them. You said, you know what, we believe in you, and we want you to do that. So that is incredible. Having 64 communities across the state, that's very impressive. We just have it available, so that's what's nice. Some of the other stuff on there you can start to look at. It's like 41% are startups. We've got, I think it's almost close to 50%. I think it's like 45, 46% are in communities less than 5,000 in population. That's kind of cool, and we have a lot of those. Western Kansas, there's not very many communities out there larger than 5,000, and certainly not even larger than 1,000. So, and I think we have there's about 12, maybe 12% that comes into the under 1,000. Yep, 12%. So yeah, it's kind of cool to look at some of the other stats on the page. I mean, it's not anything 35% or expansion, so.
Katie, you had a question?
Will you be the local contact for the applicants to go through the process? Okay.
And as soon as we get it finalized, I'll shoot it all out to you guys, the application as well.
However, I wouldn't suggest going to, that's just for you. You can look at it and see it, but don't go starting to fill it out for the, if you guys are doing it. And we've had that in some communities, and they're doing that, and they're coming back, and you wind up with like 5 half applications, but very excited business owners that are coming right behind it. So, but yeah, it's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, so our leadership team can decide to terminate you from being able to promote.
Or like talk about it.
Half
yeah.
completed application.
And we pilot things all the time throughout the, I think we did for about 16, 18 months. We allowed some of our level 1 communities to have a max of a $75,000 loan out to their businesses. So we had several of those go out. So that was kind of fun for them, but now it's 45 across the board for everybody.
What other questions do you guys have?
Yeah. Is it sort of clear, maybe?
So the
Muddy?
50 is the annual allocation, up to 200, or is it we have total of 50 loaned out? If we want more, we go back to you.
Well, right now you have $50,000. Starting July 1, you were given $50,000. So think of that as being your pot of money right now. And say you had 2 loans that came in and one was $10,000, and that's fine. You guys can make that decision. So if you get to the point where you've loaned it all out, yeah, and it's all gone out, then that's, I mean, and
That's when we call Shelley and see
yeah,
if there's
Lindsay
more
would just, yeah,
available to be utilized from.
But it
the
wouldn't be
overall
sitting
fund.
there.
Eastern side, 1.2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be sitting there. I wouldn't just, you know, if you have it coming through the pipeline, because we've seen before, we're not gonna earmark money off to the side. You guys aren't gonna I wouldn't think earmark money off to the side, because even though we want it to go as fast as we want it to go, it doesn't
That's what
always
I was
work that
asking
way.
her, we met for like an hour before this just to clarify and learn some more about it, but, so I was asking her, like, if you have an applicant, just hypothetically, if there's somebody thinking about doing a project, but they're not really gonna be ready to start applying for these type, you know, funding and whatnot, say until like March, you know, do we kinda like hold on to that money? And she's like, recommends like, no, like you go with the project that's
Yeah.
Ready
in
to go.
hand, and then we would see, what's still available,
Mhm.
either in our allocation or, overall funding, like when they get ready to apply, so.
Or
it'd
they have
be-
to wait till the next fiscal year.
So yeah, it'd be like
Mhm.
first come, first served.
But there's also too, so say somebody comes and applies and they're talking to, you know, Lindsay or wanting to apply, and if she knows that this is just super risky, you know, or involves the financial review board, and they start talking about it, you can still either fund it or you can have them fill out a Startup Kansas loan with us. And it's not, and I'm pretty sure we started talking about that even if you do those, we're gonna try and give you credit for doing those too. Going, oh, look, they're utilizing other funds of ours. But
To help move us up.
yeah, they could actually punt it to our Startup Kansas team, and we could say, oh, okay, that's kinda cool. Then it's not a ding on any of your funding that you have here. You know, it's you're just helping another business. It's just something else that you're like, I don't wanna take that risk. Let Network Kansas take the whole risk, so.
Yeah, cause they do have, like she said, other programs in addition to this that they, manage, like, Startup Network Kansas. She said there's a minority,
Women in business.
women in business, program, and so some others that can be utilized as well, so.
Does the local board get the 5%, or does any of that come back to you?
It just goes back in the revolving loan fund for the state.
Okay, so it all goes back
Yeah.
into that fund?
Yes.
So it doesn't come back into our pool to loan back out?
No. We had done that for a while, so let's completely get y'all confused. We used to, so say when we had 50 e-communities, everybody had a separate bank account, and it just happened to be in Wichita, cause that's where most of our headquarters is, so they would have 50 separate bank accounts, and one would be Bourbon County and Allen County and Cherokee County. They had all of these. We still held all the funds, but you knew, and we actually will. So when you make your first loan, you'll get this dashboard. It's all pretty. We just got the brand new one, so I think all the colors are still the same. But as long as it shows like all blue, that means that all of your, you know, you're all current. So yeah.
So the only reason I was asking, there's no reason we would wanna charge anyone more than 5% then?
Not necessarily, no, I wouldn't think so. I mean, it can match the bank's terms. You don't wanna be lower than the bank, or I'm sorry, the bank can't be lower than you know, so that's where, but we just wanna always make sure, you know, you can match the bank. If the bank is saying, you know, we're doing it at 8%, then you guys do it at 8%.
This is a program where you move up levels, the more loans you make, the more activity you have in the program. You get to a level 1 and you have control over your interest rate. So you get to a situation where you go and you say, okay, well, we've got a big project here, and we wanna use some local e-community funds and combine those with some Network Kansas funds. And maybe we go, the e-community loan interest rate is 2% because we wanna take the Startup Kansas that we don't manage and we don't have control over. We want the combined, you know, the net rate of those two to be 4% or whatever. So the more we use this, the more local control we have. We can customize packages for the needs of the entrepreneur and really make it, you know, an affordable, or, you know, bring that interest rate down. So we just need to, you know, spreading the word, getting this out there. So that's why we're here today.
Who services the loan throughout the life of the loan? Does Network Kansas do that? Does the local board? Does the bank that's administering the fund do it? You get into liquidation, who's in charge of that?
Oh, we get involved in that. But I mean, every community has different. Typically in Central Kansas, SCED, South Central Kansas Economic Development, whatever the last D stands for, they service the loans. Prosperity Foundation has serviced the loans. You guys are gonna have Landmark Bank service the loan. So you guys take care of it. We always look at, so if you start getting that past due, you know, you're obviously talking to your business owners, and we're hopeful that that's happening. You just need to do due diligence to make sure that's happening. If it comes down to, boy, I can't even get in, I can't talk to this person, they're not getting back with me, but you let, you know, we're talking about it, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And, you know, I just can't get through, then we can start, you know, maybe you guys wanna send a letter from your leadership team, and then maybe we will send a letter that, you know, usually scares people a little bit more. And then if it's really bad, we can get our attorney involved. But we just wanna make sure that you're doing due diligence, and we've had people do that, and sometimes it's we just wanna make sure that it's, you know, we don't want somebody to just walk away from a $45,000 loan. But you guys are making those decisions, but it comes down to that 13% business failure rate. That's why it stays so low, because people are like, doors are closed, but they're still paying, so it's kind of cool.
And I know we talked about downtown a lot, but it's definitely not just a downtown thing. I mean, it's Bourbon
anybody
County,
in Bourbon County. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I'm sure there'll be a million when it starts, you know, when the first loan comes in. And it is, and then, you know, and if you don't have them coming right after each other, that's a tough part too. Because it's the, okay, I gotta call up and figure out how to do this. I was actually in Lindsay's position back in 2010, and, you know, down in Coffeyville, and it was very confusing. And I was doing loans like maybe 4 and 5 and 6 months in between one to another. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Plus I was doing all these other things, just like we said before, you guys are doing all these other things. So we're like, okay, you gotta kind of remember how to do it, but it'll get old hat maybe after about 5 years of figuring it out. Yeah.
So I think, I mean, I think the flexibility of it is exciting, and hopefully it will help some of our entrepreneurs that aren't able to, you know, take the next step on a project. Maybe this will help move them forward.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and also think about, even for yourself or for your business or wherever you're working too, those board certified programs are gonna be available to you as well, whether you own a business, in a business. You don't even have to be thinking about it. Some of these programs are good just to have in your toolbox, to just be a better community person, a better business owner, a better boss, a better employee. You know, some of these things are just that. It's just helpful. So, you know, then you start getting everybody in your community on that same page and talking the same language. So it's kind of cool, and they're very inexpensive programs that once it comes around to it, we just want to see that there's commitment in the community. And from reading about the things going on, seeing the tweets that I see out there, you guys are kind of killing it. So it's pretty cool to see.
do you have anything, Robert? All right, well, thank you all for coming today. Just holler at Bill or myself or Robert.